This is Ryan.
And I'm John.
Welcome to preview season.
Oath of the Gatewatch.
All right, we're back for another...
We are back.
Yeah,
we're back.
Still here if you're watching these in sequence.
Nailed it.
We haven't gone anywhere. Let's take a look. We've got Oath of Gideon.
Finally,
first.
a good one.
I know. It makes sense that Gideon would have the best Oath so far, right? I think you're only slightly overpaying for the 2 tokens, but since they're both allies, it might trigger something, and they can even be used for the new cohort mechanic, right?
Oh, man, they're both allies?
Yeah, you can tap them.
It's actually really good.
So I'd be okay running this one in a limited deck, even without a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Now, in Constructed, you drop this, then you curve right into Gideon himself next turn, and you can immediately use his ultimate. Your tokens get upgraded to 2/2s, and Gideon would still have 1 loyalty. So that feels like that's the beginnings of a deck if you get enough, other token makers in there.
So +1 loyalty is a big deal. So, this is just scratching the surface of what you can do in Standard. Obnixilis now kills 2 creatures in consecutive turns instead of having to wait a turn. Or instead of having to take a turn to +1, now you just get to kill 2 creatures and that's it. It's basically Karn. Sarkhan Unbroken will still be alive after making 2 dragons. And that's just kind of the possibilities that this Oath unlocks. The thing about Planeswalkers is they're designed pretty deliberately and delicately, and when you throw off their calibrations because of how sensitive they are, it's really, really good.
Yeah, that seems true, but also remember not that long ago we had a card called the Chain Veil, which was going to let you activate twice in 1 turn, and everyone thought that was going to be amazing, and then I never really saw that card go anywhere. So...
What was the converted mana cost of that?
Okay, all right, we'll get back to you on that one.
So Oath is great because it just it gives you guys to protect your Planeswalkers, and it makes your Planeswalkers so good. I really like this card a lot.
Okay, great. Let's take a look here. This is actually a set. We've got Timber Gorge, and we'll just say all the rest of these uncommon dual lands. Yeah, so in a block that's filled with really cool lands, these ones feel entirely unexciting.
This is a functional reprint of a cycle of dual lands from Invasion.
Yep, and they're probably going to be staples in limited mana fixing for years to come. I think by design that's what they wanted here, some nice generic sounding lands that they can bring back over and over.
Man, okay, so I'm going to rant for just a second. I would rather, with things like reprints, with M10, they did functional reprints of all these cards. I think...
like Grizzly Bears became Runeclaw Bear, that sort of thing?
Yeah, stuff like that. Remove Soul became... what's counter target creature now? What's that called?
Essence Scatter?
Essence Scatter, yeah. When you can... it's my belief. I could be wrong. But I think that when you can avoid doing a functional reprint that's just a different name, you should avoid it. And so... I know with these reprints, there are 2 lands that are in Invasion that you can't really reprint in Zendikar. Those lands are Shivon, Gorge, and Urborg Volcano. But the other 3 named lands were fine. I believe they are Coastal Tower, Saltmarsh, and Elfheim Palace. And there are elves in Zendikar, so Elfheim Palace works. Yeah, works. So... why not just give us the reprints of these lands?
Because that works in Zendikar, but if next block we go to Shadows over Innistrad and we're back on Innistrad, those lands definitely don't work there. So they wanted something that's a little bit more...
They have elves in Innistrad, right? Don't they?
Ooh,
Did they? I don't remember.
Think so. But it becomes more and more of a problem as you go back to other worlds or other sets. So they wanted a nice kind of vanilla named lands that they could bring back whenever they please. I get it. I'm not thrilled about it, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at some real cards. Would you take this one? Would you take Kozilek's Return?
I would take it in draft.
Yeah, so here's my piece on this, right? With the Eldrazi and the processors carrying about cards in exile, you start to get into some weird kind of design space with this guy, right? So for this block, we've kind of established that exile is where cards go when they've been ingested. And then they can be processed and sent to a graveyard. And this was all thematically tied to Ulamog and his brood in Battle for Zendikar.
Yep.
So then we come to this card, Kozilek's Return, which kind of takes this whole mechanical space and just ignores it, right? Now, I would have expected Kozilek's big reveal card to tie into his mechanic, which is colorless casting cost. So maybe something like an All is Dust type card, updated with the new template, right? So it'd be colorless, it would wipe out everything, it would show him, crushing up through the ground, something like that. But instead we get this card, which is kind of just a flavor mess that steals mechanics from the Big Brother set in the block, and I'm not really thrilled with it overall. Now, I'm sure you'll have good things to say about it gameplay-wise, John, but I just find it to be really inelegant, kind of a mishmash of a card.
I wasn't, man. So I do have some thoughts on like designs of cards and flavor, but I just didn't see it with this one. I think from what I just heard, I think all your points are valid. But I didn't see it, so I'll have to think about it for a second. But I do have a vague idea of how it's going to play, and that is really well. It's an instant, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that seems... The way you beat sweepers now, like cards like Radiant Flames and the new Drown in Sorrow, how you're going to beat those cards is by, or for the time being, is dashing. You dash creatures, and so they're back in your hand on your opponent's turn. They can't use their sorcery speed sweepers to kill them. Now with Kozilek's return, you have an instant speed sweeper, and that seems tremendous. That just seems insane. I know lots of people talked about it in Modern Tron, but I think the difference between 2 and 3 mana in that deck is just a little too big for this to see play. But in Standard, I think it's great.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm sure, like I said, functionally, I'm sure it's a great card, but just world-building wise, something doesn't click for me. And speaking of worlds, here's Worldbreaker.
Worldbreaker.
Yeah. So I really hate seeing my expensive Eldrazi spells get shot down by a counterspell that costs like a fraction of what I just paid for my guy. But Worldbreaker is one of the lucky ones that has a trigger upon being cast rather than entering the battlefield. So
that is one of the things I like about Eldrazi a lot. It's always a cast trigger. Yep. So you're getting something.
You are. But the downside to that is you can't abuse that power by flickering them, which is one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Or reanimating them. But this guy even has a built-in reanimation ability anyway, kind of. It comes back to your hand, and then you can recast him. You get that trigger again.
Sure.
So we're good there. He is expensive to cast, but at least his price guarantees you'll be able to affect the board somehow. I haven't seen a lot of artifacts or enchantments that are worth using his removal ability on, but you can take out an awakened land, which is effectively the same as killing a creature. So that's probably your best target.
So I'm imagining this... like when I look at cards, I kind of trying to imagine their applications in Standard, and it's tough because you don't have the full picture, but you kind of base your evaluations based on what exists in Standard and kind of archetypes that have been there forever. So this is the card that's traditionally good against the hard control decks, but I don't think it's going to be good right now because all the win conditions in the like Esper Dragons deck, they're so proactive. Like you've got Dragon Lord Ojutai, Dragon Lord Silumgar, and those cards are just faster than this one. But in the future, where you've got a slower control deck, the win condition is that Sphinx, that blue mythic Sphinx from this set.
Sphinx of the Final Word.
Sphinx of the Final Word. So against a control deck that features kind of that as the win condition and is more suited to play like a very slow game, this, like, a Worldbreaker could just break the matchup because you have so much time to just kind of set up your mana and keep recurring it, keep getting that incremental advantage because it's on cast. Yeah. So they're going to counter this every time. That's a given, but you're going to get lands out of it. It's a good card, but not right now.
Sure. Which I think has kind of been a recurring statement we've made about a bunch of cards so far.
Sure, yeah. Cons is so good. Like, the whole block is just so highly powered. But these cards will have their day in the sun.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at Eldrazi Displacer. Now, you just heard me mention a moment ago how much I love flickering things, and this guy is all about that. So he could really open up some fun strategies. Kind of a Johnny combo player dream.
He's the blink monster.
He is. He can infinitely loop with Brood Monitor, who puts out 3 Scion tokens with each time, which then you sacrifice to pay for another blink, and it just goes over and over. So what can you do with infinite, death triggers on the tokens and, entering the battlefield from the Brood Monitor? Well, if you get a Zulaport Cutthroat, out there on the table, well, then you just win because they drain a life each time, and you just do that over and over. Or, you could just flicker Siege Rhino back and forth each turn until your opponent is dead, 3 life at a time. But even if you don't have any good enters the battlefield triggers on your side to abuse, he works on any creature, so you can actually use him to stonewall your opponent's best creature each combat.
Yeah.
You just exile them, then bring them back tapped. They can't attack you, or even block on your next turn. So that's really not bad for just 3 mana all around.
The set is really nice because it's got a lot of rares like this one where kind of the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
Like, there's the combo you just mentioned, which is just like infinite damage. But, man, like the world is your oyster with this card. I think the ability's definitely powerful enough. Like, I mean, that's just one combo where you can deal infinite damage. There has to be more you can do, and I think that, I mean, cards like this just invite brewing, which is really nice.
Absolutely. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, looking forward, we've got Shadows over Innistrad coming up. We know that. And in the previous, Innistrad sets, we had mechanics like Soulbind. And in that set, we had, Ghostly Flicker, Deadeye Navigator, ways to kind of reset those Soulbind triggers, on the fly. So
and I love Soulbind, by the way.
I'm wondering if the Displacer here maybe kind of be alluding to some new, twist on that, or maybe Soulbind's coming back itself. I'm not sure. But there might be some fun kind of tricks you can do in other sets as well. So watch for those as they come up.
Yeah.
All right. Last card of our batch today.
Colitis.
Colitis, Traitor of Ghet.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's a lot going on with this guy, and I love pretty much all of it. 3/4 lifelink body for 4 is sizable on his own.
Yeah, the rate's decent.
Yep, ability to get free zombie tokens just for killing things is gravy, and those dead things become fuel for any processors you might have on hand also. On top of all that, you can eat those zombies, increase the life gain you're getting off of Kalitas himself, right? The threat of activation makes combat really hard on your opponent because you can chump block with your zombie token and then still feed it to Colitis, and then that would get you more life and make him bigger and harder to kill. Oh man, so much. He would make a fine commander or EDH as well.
So this is the kind of card that's like kind of joylessly good. Like, it's obviously amazing. It's gonna play a lot like, oh man, what's it called? Anafenza the Foremost.
Okay.
It's obviously not as good, but it's still really strong. It costs 1 more mana. The stats are a little worse, but you get a creature every time you exile one of your opponent's creatures with it. It's just, yeah, it's not good right now, but it's gonna be. It's gonna be when Siege Rhino and friends kind of rotate out. Yeah, the set just has a lot of cards that you just need to just pick up right now and then sit on, because it's just the cheapest they're going to get. And it's like this Colitis card, it's so powerful. Like, getting a 2/2 every time you kill an opponent's creature is so powerful that it might just be good now and I don't realize it.
Yeah.
But for now, I'd rather have like the 3 mana 4/4 than the 4 mana 3/4.
Sure.
But, I mean, if I wasn't playing this card in a year's time, I'd be shocked.
Sure.
It's amazing.
He kind of reminds me, he's like a spiritual successor to Vampire Nighthawk, which was from the original Zelda card, right? He's like
sure.
Just a little bit bigger. That was like a 2/3 lifelink Death Touch. He's a 3/4 lifelink. So they're in the same ballpark, but I think there's some similarities there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like you said, these are some great cards to pick up now and hold on to. So if you're thinking about pre-ordering, wink, wink, now's
there's that
a great
segue.
time. Yeah, so smooth. That's 10 episodes we've done so far. We've previewed a bunch of cards, and they're all available for pre-order right now on TCGplayer.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.